Hi there, this is a prototype for a project that I might expand. I'll be talking about AI-driven growth inequality, and I'll focus on 3 points. First, it's growth inequality due to job displacement. Number two, growth inequality as factors of production, shift from labor towards capital. And lastly, third, the concentration of power around the technocratic elite. So yeah, let's get at it. Job displacement. As it currently stands, a majority of the population, whether in North America or the world, actually rely on wage income as their main source of income. So if you have the automation of labor, not limited to just white collar jobs, but also managerial positions, once having a human in the loop or having a human given the green light for agentic operations on these ends up just being a bottleneck and slowing down the whole process. So yeah, so you can have the automation of, okay. This is actually not as easy as I thought. I'm actually just gonna stick to this video. Okay, so thinking about job displacement. We have a job displacement of, let's say, cognitive work, okay? This is the most intuitive because what we're seeing already in entry-level positions, and as capabilities increase, which they will probably at an exponential rate as we continue to scale the compute and the data that we introduce into these models during training, as well as like expanding the context window and giving them more like reasoning and planning capabilities. They're gonna become more and more efficient at replacing cognitive labor. B, we have the AI could serve for the displacement of managerial or executive labor. So the rationale behind this is it's gonna get to a point in which the AI systems are gonna be able to organize themselves, set a list of tasks that they need to accomplish or check off to arrive at a desired output or outcome. And they can do that through one individual agent that goes task by task, or a swarm, a group of agents that tackle those tasks. And as capabilities improve and become faster and faster, having a human in the loop, that means having a managerial position, overseeing this process and having to give a green light or like reviewing and approving of what the AI agent is doing, it's simply gonna slow down the process. It's gonna serve as a bottleneck. So suppose we have two companies, and one company keeps a human in the loop, it keeps a manager given the green light, while another company does not. The second company is going to be more efficient, it's going to be faster, and it's going to get a comparative advantage over the previous company. So if this company wants to stay relevant in a capitalist, profit-oriented economic system, it's going to have to either get rid of the human in the loop, that managerial position, or it's just going to be pushed out of the market. So that's why managerial labor is also going to be replaced, and even let's say manual labor it's going to be replaced. Talking about timelines is going to take longer than cognitive labor, just because there's work that needs to be done in terms of computer vision, in terms of robotics, in terms of like, kind of hand dexterity kind of thing, which is something that certain companies, including Tesla, are investing heavily on, and it's gonna catch up upon. It's just gonna take a little bit longer than the, let's say, reasoning LLM models we currently have. And given that we operate within a capitalist economic model, and companies have an incentive to maximize their profits rather than uphold human values, they're gonna have no discretion replacing humans in order to cut costs, maintaining profits, as well as increasing efficiency. So once you have this, actually, so there's a few points I want to tackle here. It's very easy to fall into the belief that we find ourselves in an industrial revolution kind of scenario in which, you're going to have a lot of jobs being lost, but you're also going to have a lot of jobs being created by AI. I think, even though it's good to inform ourselves on past experiences to induce future experiences, I don't think that logic is applicable in this scenario for the simple reason that, there's two reasons. Reason number one is that previous technologies, so in the Industrial Revolution, machinery served the purpose of augmenting human capabilities. So machinery served to augment human mechanical capabilities. But we're running into a position in which there are no, let's say, there's no capabilities that humans keep that AI systems cannot replace. Even things that require more of an emotional sensibility are being outperformed by AIs. There's actually AI models. There's actually research being conducted that shows that people seeking out therapeutic help or in a state of crisis feel a lot more supported, validated by AI models than by first responders, simply because the AI models don't get tired, don't get annoyed, don't have human flaws. So that's one. There's no capabilities left for humans this time. And number two is, some jobs are going to be created some jobs are going to be created temporarily in terms of, how can I put this? In terms of facilitating the adoption of this technology. But number one, that's going to be temporary, and number two, that's not gonna, let's say, suffice to account for the amount of jobs being lost. So if we think of for illustration, if we think of the example of a call center, suppose you have like 300 people working at the call center, and you introduce AI, you get rid of those 300 people. Now, you can, have 5-10 people to, go through the process of overseeing this adoption. You can have 5-10 people, if there's any mistakes, they can account for. There's a limited amount of roles that you can input to replace the lost labor. But talking about like net job gain or job loss, it's a significant loss, because I don't know, you can come up with as many like jobs in this operation in which humans could enter to, like, I know I'm not expressing myself perfectly, bear with me. Point is, I don't know, you can create about 50 jobs, but you're still losing like 250 jobs. And now you expand that to every industry and every company, and it's a mass job displacement. And even in the positions in which there's still a demand for humans, there's going to be a massive overcrowding of that huge amount of people being displaced, crowding towards those few positions. And those few positions, workers in those positions are going to have a lot less leverage because there's a line of people waiting to replace them. And and I mean, it's just going to worsen the labor conditions as well as wages for those workers that are still left. Okay, so thinking about it in a more of macro sense, you have this massive job displacement. A majority of the population does not have a source of income anymore. So in our equation of like increasing inequality involves both the poor getting poorer and the rich getting richer. So by job displacement, the poor get poorer. I don't know if this is a little too... don't take me the wrong way. And this one off. Okay, second point, thinking about... okay, so in most economic activity, okay, you have your economic activity over here. Cool. There's mainly two inputs of production. Or, one hand, you have capital. You need money to buy machinery, money to do stuff. And you have labor. And with these two, you input that into economic activity, and then you get the output. Pretty nice, pretty cool. Thing is, with AI, you have a mechanism in which you can use capital to replace labor. So essentially, more and more of economic activity, it's going to rely simply on one input, which is capital. And consequently, who's going to capture the profit of economic production are going to be people are going to be capital holders, people that already hold wealth, which consequently leads to people that are already wealthy getting wealthier. And I'm not going to get into the conversation of, you should get your average Joe or like whatever, someone who's displaced to just invest in the stock market, because obviously obviously a billionaire is going to have a lot more money left to invest and get higher returns, as well as the fact that, okay, so I know this is very scattered. As I said, this is a prototype. I'm just trying to work through ideas in my mind. Okay, so we're thinking about, and I hope the audio isn't too bad. We're thinking about, okay, so if you actually look into economic data, people are somewhat inelastic, and by that I mean they don't really change their spending when there's a, let's say, decrease in available income. So if I lose my job or if I'm getting paid less, I'm probably not gonna decrease my spending that much, because, and especially if you're thinking about like a majority of the population, most of your spending is going towards housing or going towards paying your groceries or healthcare, and those are a lot more difficult to, like, it's just hard to cut costs in that, like, sure, you can eat out a little bit less, but it's kind of hard to lower your housing costs immediately to reflect the amount of income you have available, as well as grocery prices. So what I'm trying to get with that is people's, okay, so we have this, and this is like we have this bar, let's say, and this this is just someone's available income, and this is how much they spent for like pretty much like necessary spending, and this is how much they have available. Cool. Suppose that person's income decreases. They're gonna have pretty much the same amount spending, but they're gonna have a lesser amount of available leftover income. And if we're thinking about investing in the stock market and that being a viable alternative for capturing part of this shift from labor towards capital, they're just gonna have less leftover income available. Okay, so through that mechanism and through capital making up a larger portion of the inputs of production, those who already hold capital, the wealthy, will capture a larger portion of profits of economic production. And lastly, we have the concentration of power around the technocracy. So whether it is leading AI labs, which, okay, let's specify this. Frontier AI labs, there's not that many to begin with. There's like a dozen that are actually relevant. And realistically, there's 3 that are leading in capabilities per se. So it's a very small number of competitors, pretty oligopolistic or even monopolistic by nature. And moreover, and even if you're thinking of in terms of applications and like just the number of companies and people involved in that industry, it's very limited, it's very small. Just the tech industry in general employs less people than other industries. It's a very small number of people who are actually involved in this. And even considering like hardware companies like Nvidia or like, cloud as Oracle and whatnot, it's still small, it's a limited number of companies and a limited number of people involved. So, we're getting to the point in which there's an essential component in the means of economic activity, economic production, and you rely on this particular factor, which is artificial intelligence, or that's the situation in which we're headed towards. And you have a small number of people who have control over this key component, key factor. These people gain a lot of leverage, and quite often economic wealth ends up translating towards a political influence, and that's something that we're already starting to see. I mean, if you look at the second row in the Trump's inauguration, I mean, it was Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, I forget the name of the Google CEO, but he was there as well. And even in the audience, you had Sam Altman from OpenAI, people from Oracle, and this and that. So they're already starting to exert influence, even like, it's probably a silly idea to put it out there because I'm being recorded and they have control over these platforms, and who knows how they're going to start using this as a a mechanism for shutting down political opposition, but just the fact that Peter Thiel put J.D. Vance as vice president of the U.S. or just was the main donor of the Trump's first campaign, so on and so forth. These people are starting to exert very explicit political influence, and this just adds up to their concentration of power, and they were heading towards pretty much a technocracy in which tech leaders have an overwhelming political influence, and they can easily use that influence and wealth to enlarge their benefits and increase their wealth. So rich getting richer again. So I guess I'll wrap it up here so as to not make it so long. 20 minutes already. Through the concentration of power around this technocracy and the shift from labor to capital as a means of production, you have the rich getting richer, and through job displacement, you have the poor getting poorer. I'll leave it at that. I'm probably gonna try to polish this format in future videos, and yeah, see you soon.